With less than 2 weeks remaining in the Trump presidency, mostly Democratic voices are growing louder, demanding that the president be removed from office immediately or resign. Within the administration, the 25th Amendment is likely a non-starter, so the Wall Street Journal is advising the president tonight, quote, if Mr. Trump wants to avoid a second impeachment, his best path would be to take personal responsibility and resign. This would be the cleanest solution since it would immediately turn presidential duties over to Mr. Pence, and it would give Mr. Trump agency, a la Richard Nixon, over his own fate. So let's talk about the possibility of a second impeachment of this president with a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Republican Congressman from Florida, Matt Gaetz. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
Okay, so we're hearing tonight this could happen rather quickly. What are you hearing?
As we're talking right now, Democrats are preparing their impeachment strategy for next week, and it seems that impeachment is an itch that doesn't just go away with one scratch for House Democrats. This latest effort, I think, is less about the actions of the president and more about the very fragile constituency that the Democrats have stitched together. Joe Biden Democrats don't look a lot like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Democrats, and the one thing that's unified them is opposition to President Trump. So they think the best thing to launch their 2022 hopes is to begin with an impeachment strategy. I know this: President Trump will not resign. This impeachment is divisive, and it is unwarranted. President Trump wanted these protests to be peaceful and patriotic. He said so, but they were neither. And the people responsible for breaching the Capitol are precisely the people that engaged in that behavior. I hope they do face consequences, and I will be there, along with the president's supporters like Jim Jordan, to fight against an impeachment that will not advance the country, but that exists just to advance the politics of Democrats.
Well, there's a memo out tonight from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and it talks about the timeline and what Democrats and Republicans, what the senators unanimously agreed to as far as going into these pro forma sessions, not to get too wonky for everybody. But essentially, he's saying they couldn't even start impeachment proceedings in the Senate if it happens and passes the House until Inauguration Day or later. And then there were questions. It could happen. They could do it after President Trump leaves. But there are questions about that. Here's Rush Limbaugh's theory.
There's another reason, by the way, they want to impeach Trump. And folks, I am telling you, they're deathly afraid of him. I mean, that's what all of this really means. They're deathly afraid he's going to come back. They think he's Godzilla. They can shoot him full of radiation from their biggest radiation gun they got in hiding out at Area 51, and he's still going to come back from it.
So the New York Times has this note to that point. They say if he were convicted, so House and Senate, the Senate then could vote to bar him from ever holding office again, an appealing prospect not just to Democrats, but to many Republicans who are eyeing their own runs potentially in 2024. So do you think those kinds of things, the idea of making it impossible for the president to run again, is something that would get support from Republicans who don't align with him, who also want to make a run in 24, to give the Democrats the votes they need?
Any Republicans who believe that they can divorce Donald Trump from his voters and from the base of our party, we're not going back to losing politely with Mitt Romney. We're not going back to the Bushes and the Cheneys. This is Donald Trump's party still, even following January 20th. And I think that senators who take a position against the sitting president will likely face very difficult political circumstances in their own primaries in calendar year 2022. I think that now is not a time to look for personal political advantage. It's to look for what's best for the country. President Trump has come out and said that he's committed to a peaceful transition of power. An impeachment would be offensive to that peaceful transition of power. It would only stoke anxiety and concern throughout the country. It would further divide us. It would damage any type of Biden agenda because it would drive Republicans away from the notion of his leadership of the country. And so I think we would be best served to allow the president to serve out his term, to fulfill the commitment that he made to the country just yesterday, and to shelve these claims of impeachment. But that's not what's going to happen. They are going to impeach the president next week. We're going to be there to fight against it and to expose the reason for that impeachment. And it is all about maintaining some unifying principle within the Democrat. A lot of policy agreement between Joe Biden and the woke-topians who increasingly are gaining power in the new House majority.
Well, there are divisions to be healed within, clearly the GOP as well, as there are many who are expressing what they feel is righteous anger and indignation against the president. So we'll see how your party works together and moves forward from this point. And we'll watch next week, as you'll be there on the front lines, if this is another impeachment.